If you're in the market for an iPad, especially for music production, it can get really confusing with all the different models and all the different features. So in this video, I'm going to break down my recommendations for the best iPads that are a good balance between price and performance. Let's go. Hi, my name is Pete. This is Studio Live today, where I help you create, record and release your best music. And in my opinion, one of the best platforms for creating music, especially if you want to be on the go, is the iPad. And I use my iPad for everything these days, including all of my recordings. And I even produced my most recent album completely on GarageBand iOS on the iPad and the iPhone. But if you've started looking around, maybe you have an old iPad that you're starting to use, or you're looking to upgrade, or you're getting into it for the first time, it can be a bit of a minefield because there's so many different models and Apple don't do a fantastic job of naming them. So trying to work out which model is going to support the features that you want and is going to give you the best performance for your buck, that is a tricky thing to navigate. So in this video, I'm going to break it down and give you my recommendations and take you through the range of iPads so that you are prepared when you're in the market for a new iPad. So before we jump into the detail, I've got a couple of resources that I wanted to tell you about. First of all, down in the description, I've got some links. So if you are looking to purchase an iPad and you use those affiliate links, they're going to break off a little chunk and send it my way. So you'll get yourself an iPad and then you'll be supporting the channel at the same time. The second and equally important resource is I've just created an iPad buyer's guide, and that's over at studiolivetoday.com/iPad. And in that buyer's guide, it's actually very simple, but what it does is it breaks down the main features, especially for music production, that you'll be looking for in an iPad. And it's a really handy chart that you can refer to. So when you go and you start shopping for an iPad, you can use that chart and make sure that the version you're getting is going to support the things that you want to do. And the other really cool feature that I've included in this guide is a complete list of model numbers for iPads. So every iOS device has its own identifier, which is A followed by 3 digits. And it can be one of the best ways to work out what iPad you're buying. So you can actually ask if you're buying secondhand or if you're looking online, you can use this 3-digit code to work out what exact model it is. And hey, you might even be able to identify your model of iPad if you don't know what you're already rocking and whether it's worthwhile upgrading. So this is the part of the video where you're probably expecting me to go on a rant for about 20 minutes and then finally get to give you my actual recommendation. But I'm actually going to flip that around because I know that some of you are just going to want to get the information and then get out there and get creating. So I'm going to tell you my recommendation right now, and that is the iPad Air 2. Why the iPad Air 2, apart from the fact that I actually own it and use it every day? Well, the iPad Air 2 is the perfect balance, in my opinion, right now, and we're in September 2018, between price and performance, because they've been around for a while. You can pick them up used and secondhand for a pretty decent cost. I won't put the prices out there because they vary depending on where you are and the country you're in, but they are one of the best value for money iPads because you're getting a good processor. In here, you're getting 2 gig of RAM in the iPad Air 2. You've got good storage sizes all the way up to 128 gigabytes. This is 64 gig, which I personally find is around about right for most creators. If you can get 128, great, more is better. And it's got a decent screen size. It's got the 9.7 inch screen, which is a good balance again between portability and usability if you've got big fingers like mine. So the iPad Air 2, the other thing it does is it runs all of the GarageBand features. Now, GarageBand is not the be all and end all of production for music on iPad, but it is a good baseline. So this will run your Alchemy synth, it'll give you 32 tracks, it'll give you your live loops, it'll do everything that the current version 2.3.5 at the moment of GarageBand can actually do, and that will change as we go, but at the moment the iPad Air 2 is my current recommendation. Now, if you can splurge and get an iPad 2017 or 2018, all the better, because everything that you get in here is just being improved upon. So the good thing about iPads is there's no sort of changes that I think have actually degraded performance or I would recommend not to get a model for. So the iPad Air 2, the next models are the 2017 and the 2018. All of these are down in the description and also in the guide over at studiolivetoday.com/iPad. So you can check out all of the details there. But if you just came here to go, what iPad does Pete use and recommend? It is the iPad Air 2. Now, if you're curious to find out a lot more about iPad minis, about iPad Pros, and about all of the range of iPads, then hang around because I've got a heap more information that we're going to go through right now. So let's jump back a step and cover the basics. So there are three different types of iPads available. There's the iPad, there's the iPad mini, the smaller version of the iPad, and the iPad Pro, which is the big, powerful iPad. And you might be asking, why aren't I recommending you to get an iPad Pro or to get the absolute newest model? And I probably would. So if money is no object, so I've given you my recommendation around what is probably the best value right now. If you've got the cash to go to apple.com or to go to the Apple Store and buy the latest, the 2018 iPad or the iPad Pro second generation, then absolutely go for it. Because again, like I said just previously, there's no downside to getting something better. You're just going to get a slightly better processor, a bit more RAM potentially, and maybe even some bigger storage space. And when you're creating music, all of those things are important. You want a powerful processor, you want it to be fast, and you want a lot of space to store all your music files and all of your audio files. However, I wanted to give you, I guess, the balance between what is the best performer and the actual cost. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's jump into the three different types of iPads that we have available. Okay, so let's talk about the iPad Pro. Now, the iPad Pro is amazing. I don't own one at the moment, not because I don't want one, but because, again, it's a matter of balancing out your cost versus performance. But if you can afford to go for an iPad Pro, they are amazing. You've got a powerful processor, you've got plenty of storage options, and you also have the option of getting the larger screen size. So your standard iPads are around the 9 to 10 inches, and the iPad Pro can be up to 12.9 inches, as well as the new 10.5 inch model that's slightly bigger than the 9.7. Anyway, you can get a bigger screen, and you're also going to have some other features like being able to use the Apple Pencil on some of the keyboards, although the newer iPads are kind of catching up with that. So really, if you are wanting the best and you want to set up your studio and you're like, yep, I've got $1,000+ to throw down on an iPad, the iPad Pro can be definitely a great way to go. And again, you can check out the features in the guide, but pretty much every iPad Pro currently available and previously available, including the first gen, will be able to do pretty much everything that you want to do in music. There's very few limitations that you're going to find with the iPad Pro. So taking it down a notch from the iPad Pro, we have the regular iPads. And I say regular, but they're still pretty darn amazing. I have my iPad Air 1 over here and my iPad Air 2. Now, the reason that I recommend the iPad Air 2 is that the iPad Air 1, the processor and the amount of memory that you have on there is lower, which means that you are going to struggle to run some apps. And again, I use GarageBand as my baseline, and the iPad Air 1 is not going to be able to use the Alchemy synth, which is a very cool collection of synth sounds that you have in GarageBand. So if you do want to make sure that you have compatibility across everything that's currently available in GarageBand, and we're here in September 2018, so at the moment GarageBand version 2.3.5, then the iPad Air 2 is your entry level. Of course, you can go to the next models up. So we have the iPad 2017 and the iPad 2018. So as you go up, you still have the maximum storage capacity of 128 gig, which is a good amount if you can get 128 in these iPads, but you're getting more powerful processors. So as the models go up, the chips get upgraded, and things are a lot faster. So if you are looking to, crunch a whole bunch of tracks and get some really complicated tracks that you're going to record, then maybe a 2017 or 2018 iPad might be something on your shopping list. Again, comes down to that value versus performance that you're looking for. But for me, as I said in my recommendation, the iPad Air 2 does me well. It's helped me record all of my tracks. I use it literally in my studio here now because it's that good. I love producing on my iPad. If you're going earlier than the iPad 1, then you're going to start running into compatibility issues. And once again, if you go over to the guide, go over to studiolivetoday.com/iPad, you'll see the compatibility list, and you'll see that to run iOS 11 and to run GarageBand 2.3.5 with all the features you need, and iPad Air 1 is kind of your entry level, and then everything up from there, from the iPad Air 2 onwards, is going to be able to run pretty much everything. So that is my recommendations on the regular iPad. And now finally, let's jump in to the little brother and sister of the iPad Mini. So the current version of the iPad Mini is the iPad Mini 4, which is actually quite a powerful little iPad. So if you are looking for something that is smaller and more portable and still has some of the features and can run everything in GarageBand, the iPad Mini 4 is actually a good option. The challenge I have is with the digits. So I find that the screen real estate is not as much. That all being said, I still use my phone for an awful lot of my GarageBand work. So it's a bit hypocritical to say the Mini is too small a screen. But just keep that in mind, that if you do want a bit more screen real estate to do a lot of recording, if you're doing a lot of intricate MIDI editing and note editing and that sort of thing, you may want to consider a bigger screen. However, if you're going to hook up your guitar and just start jamming, yeah, the iPad Mini 4 is a great way to go. You can also look at the iPad Mini 3 and iPad Mini 2, which are also still a viable option. They will still run the majority of the features that you have in GarageBand. And once again, head over to studiolivetoday.com/iPad to check out the full compatibility list. That's got your Pros, your iPads, and your Minis, and you can see exactly what each of those can do and the options that you have. So the Mini is an option. Now, what I love the Mini for is for those that are just starting out, and especially for kids. So if you want to get your kids into music creation, the iPad Mini is a great thing. They can grab it, their little fingers don't have any trouble at all, and they can still have a pretty powerful device for all their music creation, as well as all those other apps and YouTube that they tend to like to watch if they're anything like my kids. So there you go. That is the iPad Mini that shouldn't be discounted when you're looking at it. And once again, the links in the description below will take you into where you can purchase yourself an iPad Mini if you're in the market. Now, before we finish up here, a couple of additional tips about the actual buying process. The affiliate links that I have down below are for Amazon and for eBay, and the reason that they're the ones that I list are that those are major sellers, and I tend to find in my personal experience that using a major seller, you get a lot better buyer protection, and you don't get into as many issues with some of the other online deals. So you've probably seen those around where it's like a too good to be true, an iPad for $49, and you're like, wow, that's an amazing deal. Yeah, if it's too good to be true, it probably is too good to be true. So buyer beware when it comes to buying online, and stick to the more reputable retailers. The other way, of course, if you're buying a brand new iPad, is to go to apple.com and to walk into the Apple store. Those are absolutely great ways. If you're buying a brand new iPad, then that is what I would actually recommend, rather than trying to get a few dollars off by going through another reseller. Apple are going to make sure that you get the actual model that you're after. A quick reminder again too about your model numbers. So down the bottom here on your iPads, you're going to be able to see the model numbers. So if you're unsure if you're buying second hand from someone and they haven't listed the model, or you're not sure what it is, ask them to check the A number that's going to be at the bottom of their iPad. That's going to help you out. And of course, you can jump over to studiolivetoday.com/iPad and check the complete list of model numbers, so you'll know exactly what you're buying before you make that purchase. So there you go. There's a heap more detail that we could go into all about iPads, but I wanted to keep this simple and just keep it to the key information that I get asked often and that you're going to need when you're out there looking to purchase yourself an iPad. If you've got any other questions or comments or suggestions, you can leave those down in the description. Don't forget that there are some affiliate links down there as well if you are in the market for a new iPad, and you can head on over to studiolivetoday.com/iPad to get your hands on that handy chart that is going to help you when you're out there buying an iPad. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.